What do you think happens to a Nintendo fan game after it gets slapped with the DMCA? What, you think all those people playing Pokemon Uranium or Breath of the Wild multiplayer deleted it just because Nintendo wasn't happy?
Not gonna happen! No, not gonna happen! Ha ha! Not gonna happen!
Besides the copies that are already out there, the bigger problem for Nintendo is that sometimes trying real hard to make something go away just makes it worse. Sometimes it makes it way more visible than if they just not said anything at all. That's why today's video is a look at 4 of the most incredible Nintendo fan projects you are ever gonna see, and specifically what happened after the DMCAs went flying. Because, spoiler alert, I think they're still out there. My name is Clyde, and welcome back for another episode of Nintendo is Not Your Friend. And I'm about to say all the regular YouTuber stuff like, if you like the video, please boop the like button and subscribe and blah 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 blah. And those things are appreciated, and they really do help out our very small channel, so thank you. But even more important to me is that as we start to talk about these games today, I want to ask you to keep a question in the back of your mind. And that question is, what's really stopping fan games from being able to coexist alongside official ones? Nintendo already has an answer to that question. They would have you believe that it would damage their brand or hurt their game sales. But is that true? Is that really why they take these games down? Nintendo, why did you DMCA those fan games?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Alright, so before we dive into the fan projects, let's take a super quick second to just familiarize ourselves with what DMCA entails. What the heck even is a DMCA takedown?
Oh my god, what is that? Oh my god! What is that?
DMCA.com defines it as, a DMCA takedown is when content is removed from a website or internet platform at the request of the owner of the content. And 3 quick but really important points worth mentioning here. First up, in order to actually submit a DMCA request, you need to either be the copyright holder or someone authorized to act on their behalf. This is to say that these kinds of takedowns aren't just being submitted by random people or happening by happy accident.
Okay. Oh, would you like some champagne? How'd that get in there?
Second, and just as important, is that although the C in DMCA stands for copyright, the material doesn't necessarily need to be copyrighted in order for a DMCA request to be submitted or even processed. This is a big one, and we're going to come back to it in a second, but for now, just understand that it really helps Nintendo cast a wider net in looking at content to get pulled down online. And third, and most important by far, is that DMCAs are typically sent to the platform that's hosting the content. That could be YouTube or an ISP or some web host that's making the offending content available online. And this is crucial because those companies are just caught in the middle. They don't want to be held liable for any infringing copyright content, so they're usually pretty quick to comply with DMCA takedown requests. Which is why, despite the fact that the enforcement rates and the takedown rates for a lot of this content might vary depending on the platform you're on, it's generally thought to be pretty freaking high. There are services out there that put the success rate of DMCAs at like 90% plus. And yeah, there is a counterclaim process for a lot of these platforms, but it's honestly pretty dubious, and we don't have time to talk about it today. That's another video for another time. Anyway, that's my really crappy TED Talk on DMCA takedowns. I promise this stuff is gonna come in handy later, but for now, let's talk about some fan games. From its very first moments, Super Mario Bros. X is an explosion of nostalgia and excitement and pure, simple fun. This fan game takes so many things that we love about classic Mario and just mixes them all together. And it even featured a level editor years before Mario Maker was even a pipe dream at Nintendo. Between the split-screen co-op, battle mode, new levels, new characters, new animations, it is clear that so much passion and joy went into making this thing. Fun gameplay. Seamless co-op. Awesome level design. No microtransactions.
Long ago,
SMBX fans.
lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when
Nintendo's lawyers
attacked.
Supposedly, the original game contained infringing copyrighted content, so Nintendo just straight up went after it. In fact, their old web host that was serving SuperMarioBrothers.org, the URL that's in all their trailers and stuff, it looks like they received multiple DMCAs, and they were actually forced to hand over that domain. If you try to go to that website now, you'll see that it redirects to Mario's official website, where they're more than happy to sell you all sorts of branded Mario merch, which may or may not include shot glasses. But despite those DMCAs, Super Mario Bros. X, known also as SMBX, lives on in a couple really cool ways. The first, and the most obvious for people that have been close to the project, is that the lead developer from SMBX, Andrew Spinks, actually went on to make another game. It's not a very big game, you probably haven't heard of it or anything, it's just this little teeny tiny game called Terraria. Yeah, that Terraria. The Terraria that sold 60 million copies, Terraria. And back in the day, the dude was making fan games that were on Nintendo's DMCA hit list. Just imagine how different that guy's life would be today if Nintendo's lawyers had gotten their hands on him.
I'm going to jail!
Ah, what a timeline. Anyway, the other way that SMBX lives on is the way that most of these projects do. They remove the copyrighted material, they put their code on GitHub, and they put out a statement on their website making it very, very clear they don't condone piracy and they do not condone copyright infringement. All this stuff here, including a link to the GitHub with the source code, it's just here for archival purposes. It's just here for fair use and commentary. We're just a fan site to document the game, and we definitely don't condone copyright infringement.
I was thinking,
Yes.
I'm ready to stop working on my fan game and only buy officially licensed Nintendo products.
if you'll still have me.
You just hold on for 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Sublime! I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that.
So yeah, this is clearly all just a big legal song and dance, but the TLDR is that the project is still out there in some capacity. Apparently there's even a sequel in the works, and although I imagine that Spinks hasn't been attached to the project in a very long time, it's cool to see there's still a community of people that care and are interested in pursuing that kind of a project. But before we move on, I want to take a moment to look at 2 comments left on the SMBX YouTube trailer that just stayed with me. These are comments that should just not be ignored. First up, "This game is so fun that it's obscene." So fun it's obscene? Really? And hey, listen, I'm from Texas, and what I'm about to say is not relevant to Nintendo or gaming at all. But whenever I hear the word obscene, my brain goes to one place.
Is there a Connie Lingus here? What about Anita Dickenming? Or Holden Middick?
Never change, Texas. Never change. But second, and an actually relevant comment to this conversation, is this one. Why isn't Nintendo paying these guys to make official games like this for its consoles? I mean, seriously. They could pay these guys a fraction of the cost they would pay big developers. They could watch over them, give them quality control and support, and they make a crap load in sales and money. They could be making both great products and lots of money really, really easily if they just utilize the resources like this that are available to them. If I were working for Nintendo, Yeah, that's a great question. And it's not like this is totally unheard of in the gaming industry. Companies like Valve and Sega and other big gaming titans have recognized the passion and hard work and skill that goes into making some of these fan games and actually hired those people to make games for the company full time. I'm just saying, if I was working at Nintendo when the dude that made Bowsette was popping off, man, I'd have thrown so much money at that guy. Imagine the possibilities. In fact, I want to take just a slight detour here to talk about Sega for a moment. Because while I was doing research for this episode, I came across something that blew my mind. And for me, what I'm about to talk about really highlights the difference between companies like Nintendo that wield copyright as a weapon, that are comfortable issuing hundreds or even thousands of copyright strikes all at once, versus other companies that really only use DMCA takedowns as a last resort. And to understand this difference, all we have to do is look at how Sega handled Sonic Boom. Back in 2016, Sonic Boom was really having a moment online. Kids were enjoying it, parents that grew up with the characters were enjoying it, it was kind of going off online. Some people were enjoying it so much that they were actually uploading entire complete episodes of Sonic Boom to YouTube. But rather than pull a Nintendo, Sega went out of their way to actually warn channels and warn creators they were about to get a copyright strike. Soon, a small handful of you may be getting messages from us on YouTube about your ability to upload and maintain certain Sonic Boom TV show content. Don't panic, we're not the kind of bullies that want to have your accounts damaged or your rings stolen just because you like the Sonic series. In the short term, we'll be sending some letters to people who've uploaded full episodes of Sonic Boom TV show content so they can remove them without needing to worry about getting a copyright strike on their account. Users who don't remove them on their own will have them taken down. We think the stuff you guys do is awesome, and we thank you for your understanding and continued support. And let's just acknowledge, this is incredibly kind of Sega to do. They did not have to do this. They could have just pulled a Nintendo and let the DMCAs rip.
Everybody in the audience, now listen to me carefully. is being given a special package, and I don't want you to open it. Do not open it. Cameras are on you, so do not open until I tell you. All right, open your boxes. Open your boxes. 1, 2, 3.
Takedown, 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 takedown. But no, they went out of their way to warn people before the copyright strikes were issued. Because if you don't know, copyright strikes are kind of a big deal on YouTube. They can affect your account standing, monetization, they can even get your channel shut down. It was nice of Sega to give people a chance to avoid that pain, even if it wasn't a legally necessary thing for them to do. So, good job, Sega. Anyway, that's enough about SMBX and Sonic Boom. Let's move on to a different type of fan game, one that I know I personally would have enjoyed the heck out of back in the day. And I'm talking about The Legend of Zelda: The Missing Link. Set chronologically between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, this is a fan game that aimed to fill in some of the plot holes and plot gaps between the two titles. In addition to the really mysterious, spooky vibes it had going on, the game featured new items, new enemies, new locations, a new boss in there. It was overall a really cool experience. It wasn't a very long experience. I think it's been reported that it's like completable in 2 to 5 hours or something. But what's here is really compelling. And speaking personally, when I was growing up with a Nintendo 64, I had a lot of interest in that part of the Zelda timeline. Playing Majora's Mask as a kid, I wondered more than once, how did Link and Navi get separated, and where did that adventure take them? And I tip my hat to the fans that worked on this project so passionately to try and connect the dots. And by all accounts, they did a great job. PC Gamer ran an article showering this fan game with praise, saying, "The Missing Link is a fan game alright, but from the hour or so I've played, it's a damn good one. But at the risk of jumping ahead, we can already see where this story is going because Nintendo's lawyers jumped on this game harder than Office Space employees on a freaking printer." Rapping myself so I don't get a takedown. Not your friend busting on Nintendo ain't no memento. They want to strike us all over YouTube still, because it's by only officially licensed games. Yeah. And I'd just like to take a moment and formally apologize. I am very white, and my rapping is very bad. And I'm sorry to let you know, but I think your ears probably have cancer now. I am sorry. Anyway, Nintendo came down hard on The Missing Link. DMCAs were issued and bombastic headlines flew front, right, and center. But, much like SMBX, if there was somebody out there that was interested in playing The Missing Link, I'm sure there are still repositories or websites out there that have the source code. And also, just like SMBX, the lead developer of The Missing Link, a guy that goes by the handle Kaze Emanuar, actually went on to do some incredible things too. He's actually gone on to continue making fan games and mods for other Nintendo titles, and he shares a lot of his incredible creations and passions with his YouTube audience. Seriously, check this stuff out. Even if it's not officially sanctioned by Nintendo, there's some incredible stuff here. So good job, Kaze Emanuar. Your games are awesome. Alright, so these last two fan games I want to talk about, they're different. And that's because the games we're about to talk about are more than just games. They're full-on communities and storylines, and it's kind of a lot. So it just feels right to put them in their own category. First up is every Pokemon fan's wet dream from the 90s, PokeMMO.
Let's look at a picture book. The big book
of PokeMMO. If you're not familiar with it, PokeMMO is a mod that allows people to play the older generations of Pokemon online, complete with chat, trading functionality, events, an auction house system, the works. The amount of functionality this mod brings to the table is honestly staggering. And just as incredible is that you can pretty much play this thing on any modern platform. You got Android, iOS, Windows, Mac. You can even play this thing on Linux if you want. This mod has its own account system and Reddit community and socials, and it's a full-on thing. And you're probably sitting there wondering, but Clyde, how's any of this possible? Well, the fact is, we just make the client. We don't supply the ROMs or any of the cute Pokemon themselves.
Look, I know you're not following what I'm saying anyway, right? That's okay, that doesn't matter. The real question is this: was all this legal?
Well, maybe technically. And this question of legality is a freaking good one. In fact, I've seen posts from people who ran other Poke MMO adjacent communities, such as this guy who contributed to PokeNet back in the day, asking on Reddit, how the heck is any of this possible? And the common consensus is that by not providing the ROMs themselves or by steering clear of Nintendo IP on their site, they've been able to avoid the ire of Nintendo. In fact, they avoid Nintendo so much that you can actually go to their homepage or their TOS, Control F, and look for the word Nintendo, and you will see it does not appear even once. The closest they get to it is by saying they're not affiliated with any other company, and they make it very, very clear they don't supply the ROMs or any other content that might potentially infringe on any copyrights. But how do you think Nintendo feels about this situation? Yeah, probably not too happy. And something tells me that if Nintendo could have sicked their lawyers on them by now, they probably would have. The game's been up since 2012. This is not a new fan mod on the block. And random fun fact of the day for you, did you know that Nintendo loves their lawyers so much they actually named one of their most iconic characters after one? Who's that lawyer man? It's John Kirby. Yeah, Kirby was actually named after a lawyer named John Kirby, who helped them untangle a mess with IP infringement on Donkey Kong vs. King Kong back in the day. So if you're ever on Jeopardy and that comes up, I got you. Anyway, back to Poke MMO. This fan mod community has been going strong for over a decade. They've added regions, events, new content, new functionality, and all the while a community has sprung up around it. Sites like MMO Stats report that this game has been played by like 3 million players, with several thousand people continuing to log on every day. So how long will it last? I genuinely have no idea. It's managed to dodge the lawyers for this long, so they must be doing something right. Keep doing your thing, Poke MMO. You're probably legal. Maybe. But moving on, one fan game that's cultivated just as passionate of a community as Poke MMO, but hasn't had the success in dodging Nintendo, is that of Project M. Project M is a mod for Super Smash Bros. Brawl that aimed to make the game feel a little bit closer in tempo and technical expertise to its predecessor, Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube. The game features new mechanics, new characters, new stages, new balance changes, and so much more. The sheer amount of content in this mod is an incredible testament to just how passionate its fans and its community really are. There are just so many incredible, cool changes that make this a really special fan game. And it's not surprising that a lot of people in the community wanted to see Project M included at competitive events alongside other Smash games. But Nintendo really didn't like that idea. Is it okay if we play Project M at Smash Bros. Tournaments?
You serious?
To say that Nintendo threw a fit here is a serious understatement. They have gone scorched earth with this community, and not just in shutting down events in the lead up to them, but in pressuring Twitch and tournament organizers to slowly, quietly not present Project M as much. And full disclosure here, I am pretty biased when it comes to the topic of Smash and Nintendo. Eagle-eyed viewers of this series will have noticed that I like to wear Melee merch because I'm a huge fan of the game, and I'm an even bigger fan of the competitive scene of Melee. Like low-key, I watch every major with my dog, I type GG's in chat after every single set, and yes, I do scream bloody murder when something epic happens on screen.
You're hoping, Yoshi in that position, you're hoping that you get the DI either to avoid the next hit, or when you don't get the DI to avoid the next hit, you're hoping that you can get your armor off.
Okay, I don't scream that much, but I'm closer than you would think. The point is that I love Melee, and I love the storylines, and I love the people that make up that community. And while I've not played Project M for myself, I know of a lot of people that have. It's beyond frustrating that Nintendo's been so unwilling to just let people play this mod for an old-ass game. And if you're a Smash fan, this isn't news to you. Nintendo's been dunking on Project M forever, but they've also been dunking on Melee and Brawl and Ultimate and every other game in the Smash series. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put this out there. It's very likely that the episode I make on Melee will probably be the last episode I make in this series for Nintendo's Not Your Friend. I have so much to say about that community, how resilient they are, how much BS they've put up with over the years, how much they've banded together, and it's probably going to turn into a 4-hour diatribe, and it's going to be a long-ass episode. But I want you to know that pretty much every wonderful, nice, kind thing that I could say about the Melee community could just as easily apply to Project M. It's a community that just wants to play a video game and occasionally have a prize pool at their tournaments. But let's be real, Nintendo is never going to let Project M have that, no matter how much we band together. Nintendo, The community behind me.
You underestimate my power. Don't try it.
When we started this video, I asked you to keep a simple question in the back of your mind. What's really stopping fan games from being able to coexist alongside official ones? Take any of the fan games we've talked about today, or their successors, and really ask yourself the question, are these games actually harming Nintendo's brand? Are they actually really damaging their sales? Me personally, I don't see it. And don't get me wrong, there are absolutely fan projects out there that I would feel differently about. We talked in our last episode about how young a lot of Nintendo fans are and the need to protect them. And I honestly think that's even more true when it comes to fan games and fan content. But to just blanket say nothing, nada, never to so many of these fan games and projects, it strikes me as going a little bit overboard in protecting their IP. And sometimes it backfires. Sometimes, in Nintendo's desperate frenzy to make something go away as quickly as possible, they actually accomplish the opposite. They bring a lot more attention to something than if they had just not actually said anything at all.
He's acting worse than you did when you tried to cover your farts by coughing.
Okay, welcome to the PTA meeting. On the subject of school lunches, I know there's been some concern about nutrition. We've had complaints about the soda machines, and I have spoken with the school board. Is there something you'd like to say, Mr. Griffin?
No. No.
For example, the Music Sheet controversy from just earlier this year. Nintendo decided to go back on some officially licensed music, and the media just kind of ran with it. Creators put a big negative spotlight on Nintendo for this exact issue. Alternatively, if emulators are your thing, searches for Switch emulator exploded in the aftermath of the Yuzu takedown. Nintendo got that particular emulator pulled down, yeah, that's true, but think of how many people that got pulled into that world because the story went super viral that would have never otherwise checked out Switch emulation in the first place. And please, make no mistake, I am not saying that's a good reason for Nintendo to not protect their intellectual property. I'm just pointing out that if your goal is to get less people emulating Switch games, maybe don't do it in such a way that it trends on Twitter. Likewise, and this is something I'm going to talk about more when I talk about Melee, but I think there's a sort of us versus them mentality that arises in these kinds of situations. When Nintendo decides to go after these communities, it really galvanizes them against them as a company. It breeds ill will, so to speak. Again, I'm not saying Nintendo should just back off and let everybody go wild with their IP. I'm just saying there's gotta be a better middle ground. Consider the fact that Nintendo is so quick to play the legal card that there are actually entire fan sites created to keep track of them all. This one here is titled Sued by Nintendo. Great name, by the way. And it exists just to keep track of the many, many interactions that Nintendo has legally with their fans and with other companies. Like, so many of us are just in the audience watching Nintendo go totally ham on a fan game, and it's just not a great look.
It's all just an act.
Stop! Stop! He's already dead.
Again, I don't know what the ideal solution is, but I do know this ain't it. And honestly, I think a big part of the friction between Nintendo and their fans on this front it's just caused by the fact that their policies are super vague. Here, take a look at Larian Studios' fan content policy page. This is a studio that makes it extremely clear what is and isn't allowed for fans to do. Keep it free, keep it clear that it's fan content, etc. They've got like 4 very simple direct guidelines here. And it's not just Larian doing a good job on this front either. Even a company as controversial as Wizards of the Coast has a very clear fan content policy page. One word, free. Tell the community it's unofficial, etc. This kind of stuff should be the norm. It should be easy for fans to understand what is and isn't allowed based on these kinds of content guidelines. You want to see what Nintendo's fan content policy page looks like? It's 1,300 words of gobbledygook that reads like a bunch of their lawyers wrote it, which they probably did. You may monetize your videos and channels using the monetization method. Other forms of monetization by intellectual property or third party you are responsible. What? And their Q&A section does not make this any clearer. You've got questions that seem simple, like what types of content are acceptable within these guidelines? And the answer says, oh, Let's Plays and reviews are within the scope. They're great, but I can't help but point out the reality of the situation is that even though this content guideline says Let's Plays are fine, we've seen time and time again, DMCAs have been issued for this kind of content on YouTube. So I don't really know. And honestly, I'm not ashamed to admit that even I am a little bit nervous about uploading this kind of content to YouTube. I go to pretty great lengths to add commentary and context to the games that I show and talk about on this channel. And I make it very clear that this content is satirical. That is hopefully obvious from all the mustache memes. I even have a literal Google spreadsheet where I cite the sources for pretty much everything I talk about in my videos, and I make that available publicly. And even then, I'm still nervous. I genuinely think I could just sign on YouTube one day and just see, your channel has 1 million copyright strikes. You're gonna get out of here. My point is that fans and creators should not have to wonder if what they're doing is gonna get them a copyright strike or a DMCA. It shouldn't be a mystery. Anyway, wrapping this video up, my point is that Nintendo can and should do a lot better on this front. I would challenge Nintendo to make their policies even clearer if they can. And in some cases, I think it'd be great if they would extend the olive branch to members of the fan modding community and the fan game community. The people that make a lot of these fan games and mods are some of the most passionate people in the entire world. Other companies would legitimately jump for joy to have fans this passionate about their games. Nintendo should celebrate that passion. They should capture it. They should turn that into lifelong fans, not mortal enemies. And yeah, every now and then when somebody does release something that is in bad taste or actually abusive, Nintendo should come down on it. They should be ruthless and they should protect their IP in those situations. But for me, when it comes to normal fan games and normal passion projects, it shouldn't be Nintendo's first option. And until they change their ways, this is just going to remain one more reason as to why Nintendo is not your friend. But if you'd like to be a friend of the channel, I would love it if you would subscribe or leave a comment and tell us about your favorite fan games, the kinds of projects you're excited for in the future. There is so much passion and amazing work in this community, and there's no amount of videos on YouTube that could cover even a fraction of it. But I am grateful that we were able to spend some time today and celebrate that hard work and celebrate the amazing projects that some of these folks have put out. So thank you for spending this time with me. We'll be back in a week or two with an episode on games preservation, which is going to be a very interesting topic. I know a lot of people probably out there already know Nintendo has tried very, very hard to thwart a lot of those efforts, so we're going to be digging into that topic, and it's going to be a fun one. But yeah, I hope you will join us. And if you missed last week's episode, here is a link to our episode on mobile games and Nintendo's monetization tactics, particularly aimed at kids. It was a very spicy episode. I appreciate everybody for tuning into that one. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But yeah, thank you so much for the time, y'all. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see y'all soon for our next episode of Nintendo is Not Your Friend. Bye!